Hey wrestling fans, welcome to a new episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic for December 16th, 2022. It's Friday night, and you know what that means. It's time to recap episodes of WWE Friday Night Smackdown and AEW Rampage. Well, it is Friday night for a few more minutes anyway. Recording this now at 11:57 p.m. on Friday night. And before I get into Smackdown and Rampage, just a reminder, now available is 360 unboxing for the December Pro Wrestling Crate. Just got it in the mail today. We did the unboxing. You can even listen to the audio of it right here on Spreaker or wherever else you listen to podcasts, but it would probably be better if you watch the video on YouTube. It's available on both 360 Wrestling Podcast YouTube channels. So if you have a chance, go check out the video or listen to it, or both actually. That would help out if you watch it and then you also listen to just the audio of it. Not going to spoil it just yet, but there are some pretty good things in there. This month's Pro Wrestling Crate, and next month's January on the card says there's going to be an item of Bruiser Brody. Looking forward to that. Also, Braun Strowman, Jay White, and more in the January 2023 Pro Wrestling Crate. And now let's get into this Friday night. Start things off with WWE Friday Night Smackdown, and one of the things that caught my attention right off the bat just a second before I get into it, Smackdown was live from Chicago at the Allstate Arena. The commentators, Michael Cole and Wade Barrett. And now what I was going to say was, caught my attention right off the bat when Michael Cole welcomed us to SmackDown. He started it off just the way I started this podcast off. It's Friday night, and you know what that means. I just thought that was kind of funny. Michael Cole using AEW's thing to start off SmackDown. But we start off SmackDown this week with a championship match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Damage Control and their challengers, Liv Morgan and Tegan Knox. And it's an alright match. Pretty good opener to start off the show. And there is a mystery woman in a hood from the crowd. Costs Tegan Knox and Liv Morgan the match. So still WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. Damage Control, Dakota Kai and Io Sky. And then later on, it would be revealed that the woman from the crowd was Xia Li, making her return to SmackDown. And then we see footage from last week, and then we see footage from earlier today that was released online with a QR code, and where he was kidnapped by, I'm guessing, Uncle Howdy. And then we see LA Knight backstage, and then we go to break. And when we come back from the break, we see LA Knight in the ring. And then Bray Wyatt still denies it. And then we see for the first time live in the arena Uncle Howdy and LA Knight leaves. So a little bit of progress in this one, seeing Uncle Howdy actually live in the arena for the first time instead of just on the Titantron. And I know there's been rumors about Uncle Howdy, this new mask with Uncle Howdy, and there's been rumors about it maybe being Bo Dallas, and to be honest, who knows, I could be wrong, but I thought that the Uncle Howdy that we saw on Smackdown tonight did kind of remind me of Bo Dallas, actually. Or at least I think it kind of resembled him, but who knows, I could be wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments, or if where you're listening to has comments, or on the YouTube version of the podcast, or you can email 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of this storyline between Bray Wyatt and LA Knight so far. To be honest, I'm definitely not the biggest fan of it, but we will just have to wait and see how this goes, though. I think it could get better, and hopefully it will. It definitely has potential to be better, but hopefully they will make it better. And next up, we have the WWE Intercontinental Championship on the line. Gunther defending against the winner of the Smackdown World Cup on Fox, Ricochet. And honestly, I was kind of surprised about Ricochet winning. Oh, just a little surprised anyway. Winning the Smackdown World Cup a couple weeks ago. And then this is the title match. Good match. I thought nothing real great, but good though. And Gunther retains the IC title. And now it is time for the Smackdown return of Roman Reigns since Survivor Series War Games. And if you remember last week, Jey Uso told Sami Zayn to brush up a little bit, maybe cut his hair, trim his beard, because he said Roman Reigns had something planned for him. But then, with the Kevin Owens problem now, that doesn't exactly go as planned, and Roman Reigns goes to Adam Pearce and gets a tag team match made for the December 30th episode of SmackDown, the final SmackDown of 2022, which will be Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn taking on Kevin Owens and a mystery partner. And then in the segment, we find out who Kevin Owens' partner is. Appearing on the Titantron is John Cena, which has already been announced that he would be returning on the December 30th SmackDown. So we will see Roman Reigns and the honorary Uso Sami Zayn taking on KO Kevin Owens, and John Cena actually having his first match in 2002, which Cena mentioned in his promo that Kevin Owens texted him, said he has had a match in WWE every year since 2002 except for this year. So just right at the very end of 2022, John Cena's going to have a match on Smackdown on Fox. And that'll be in 2 weeks. And speaking of Smackdown, tonight was a double taping. Tonight's Smackdown live, and then next week's episode is being taped. And I've talked about this on the podcast before many times. I do not read spoilers, so hopefully I'll be able to make it to next week without getting spoiled. And like I always say, I know there's a lot of people online who go on the websites, podcasts, whatever, and want the spoilers to find out what's going to happen. But for me personally, I'm not a fan of them because I would still watch anyway. But if I know what's going to happen ahead of time before I actually see it, it kind of takes some of the fun out of it for watching it, to be honest. But that's just me, though. Maybe one day I'll do an episode of Fanatic Unleashed, talk about like spoilers and things like that, how the internet and all the news sites, the podcasts, YouTube, things like that, social media have changed pro wrestling. And like I said, might talk about that more in a future episode of Fanatic Unleashed. But right now, let's move over from Fox to TNT for AEW Rampage, which was taped after last Wednesday night's Dynamite Winter is Coming from Garland, Texas. Tonight, commentators are Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, and good old JR Jim Ross. And we kick things off with Rampage tonight. Jon Moxley taking on Sammy Guevara. Moxley's ear is bloody in this one. And I know what you're thinking. Probably, yeah, Jon Moxley bleeding is nothing new. And then Sammy has the blood all over him. And there's a spot where he goes outside the ring and kisses Ty Mello and even gets a little bit of the blood on her. That quite really wasn't a pretty sight. And Moxley gets the win, and then we see FTR in the ring cut a promo on the Guns, and we will see FTR versus Austin and Colton, the Guns, this Wednesday on Dynamite Holiday Bash. Women's action up next. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, defeats Sky Blue, in which I thought was a pretty good match. Sky looked impressive in this one, I thought. And I am a big fan of Dr. Britt Baker. And then after the match, we see Hikaru Shida make her way on the stage. Which, I'm not sure if I talked about it too much Wednesday night on the Dynamite recap, but Britt Baker's promo that she cut backstage in that interview about Shida says the only thing she's famous for is breaking Britt Baker's nose. Actually, though, Britt Baker was the one that really got famous, kind of, from that. Got the shirt was made and everything. She got a lot of coverage after that picture of her with the bloody nose, the blood all over her face. And next up, Wardlow defeated Exodus Prime, and he gets on the mic after the match and calls out Samoa Joe. And then we see the AEW TNT champion and the Ring of Honor television champion on the screen. And he says he will not face Wardlow tonight in Garland, Texas. And he also will not face Wardlow in San Antonio this Wednesday on Dynamite. But he will face him in 2 weeks at New Year's Smash. So we will, in 2 weeks on Dynamite, we will see Samoa Joe take on Wardlow, formerly the team known as Warjoe. And now it is time for the main event. Or I should say what Mark Henry says, since this is Rampage. Well, it looks like there's been enough talk. It's time for the main event. Sorry about that. I'm sure that wasn't a good Mark Henry impression. But let's get on to the main event. And it is Best Friends, Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor, Orange Cassidy, and Dustin Rhodes. And they defeat the team of Kip Sabian, Trent Seven, and the Butcher and the Blade. And I thought this was quite an entertaining match, to be honest. Definitely a good match for Rampage. And I know the ratings for Rampage haven't really been too great as of late, but I thought this was an entertaining main event, or at least I enjoyed it anyway. And that was Rampage. And I saw something earlier on the Ringside News app about maybe AEW changing up their television up soon, or their television set, I should say, soon. I'm guessing that means a new entrance. So that'll be interesting to see. And that's all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Remember, tomorrow is Tribute to the Troops on Fox, 2:30 Eastern. And if you can watch it live, well, it's not live, but if you can watch it when it first airs, I should say, make sure you check that out, or DVR it, which I'm sure a lot of people do with the time that it starts. 2:30, which I'm kind of surprised. I know last year's, I want to say, was on a Sunday, but it was at 5 p.m. And I want to say it might have started a little late due to a football game, so I guess that's kind of better that's not on a Sunday, but I mean, maybe a Saturday night would have been better. I'm not sure what Fox has on Saturday nights these days, but maybe you could have put it at 8 or 9, maybe even 10, or like 2:30 in the afternoon. Does seem a little odd, but I'm going to check that out, and maybe tomorrow night or sometime this weekend I'll try to have a recap of Tribute to the Troops. So stay tuned. Remember, the new 360 unboxing video of the December Pro Wrestling Crate is now available on the 360 Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel, and you can also listen to the audio right here on the regular podcast feed. you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, anything about the podcast, 360 Wrestling Podcast at gmail.com. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Until the next episode, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.